they're slaves to other people that are using them in society.
Sir, not everyone's a slave. Just because you work, for example, for a quid, doesn't mean you're a slave. People who work for a quid who are quite often content with their lives. And by the way, sir, you talk about ignorance. People centuries ago, 2, 3, 4 centuries, are far more ignorant than the most ignorant person living today. I'm not going to assume that therefore they were in dire straits. They didn't know that the earth was round, or they didn't know that Australia existed. They were completely and utterly ignorant, but that doesn't mean that the quality of their life deteriorate because of that.
Well, the measurement of gross national happiness goes back a long way to Bhutan. The legal code of 1629 stated, if the government cannot create happiness for its people, then there is no purpose for the government to exist. Well, our government now is not interested in creating happiness for its people.
Our government is not Bhutan, sir. You're talking about Bhutan.
I'm talking about Bhutan.
Who just managed to qualify for the Asian World Cup.
5 centuries ago, they were talking about happiness.
Yeah.
And happiness was measured by how content the people in the national...
So how do you measure that? We can't even measure happiness today. How do you measure something like happiness? How do you measure love? How do you measure any emotion? Sir, we can't, that's right. But well done, madam.
So you measure it by the well-being and contentment that it gives you personally.
How do you measure contentment? And besides, if you've got a dictator walking up and saying, are you content? You're going to say yes. And if you've got a beautiful, gorgeous woman that you're attracted to and she says, how content are you? You're not going to act like a grump. You're going to feel, oh, I'm pretty good. Everything's going well, thanks very much. Questionnaires are often answered depending on the attractiveness of the person asking the questions.
That's so true. Preach it.
Now, you did all right the first time. You're pushing it now. You're pushing it now. But stay with us. Yeah, it is very hard to measure something because it depends on the type of person.
Stop it, hey, don't waste your time. Can't you stop it? What are you talking about? This is part of life. People have to have a war and peace.
They have to.
And you can't stop it. You're talking rubbish.
The lady is too smart for you.
Listen, everybody has to die and live. You are born and you die after that. What are you worried about?
Seriously. Sorry, I'm very passionate because the thing is, I have stood at Gallipoli, which is a beautiful part of the world. Absolutely exotic looking. It is magical looking. When you stand on Gallipoli and you look out at the beautiful blue sea, and it's a beautiful place, and you know that our men went there and killed some innocent Turks as well, and you wonder why? Why is it that our leaders sit at home safe while your sons and fathers are out there fighting for a war to protect what? The innocent leaders? No. War is a load of shit, right? Have an argument, then go home to your own place and go and watch some TV. The thing is, I will never support war. Pro-peace all the way. And anyone who thinks they're protecting somewhere, it's the leaders that need to fight. So this man's point of the ancients, with the hero leader in the front, let him die. Let him die.
This lady's been saying what I've been saying for weeks.
Excellent, fantastic.
We need to have a different defence system based on not soldiers and so on, but on assassins. We need to be able to telegraph to everyone in the world, and if anyone attacks us, for example, if New Zealand were attacking us, we would have assassins during the Kaiser Soze's events. That is, the leaders are assassinated, their wives are assassinated, their children are assassinated, their cousins are assassinated.
And then leave the rest of us in peace.
And so that it would be such a deterrent to the leaders to make that decision in the first place that they would not commit their troops to war. It's called the Kaiser Soze defence.
I don't want to.
The trouble is, leaders have this feeling at the moment that not to attack each other because that's ungentlemanly. But that's because they've got the power to make that little pact between them. The only exception was someone tried to get Hitler. But anyway, excuse me, madam, you seem to be able to say something. Would you like to have a talk for a minute? Oh, my voice is going.
Come on, Anna.
I'll just get you a proper ladder.
Annette, your go. Yeah, 3.
Every year on the 25th of April, we all look at these guys that died as innocent people and we look at them as heroes. Now, maybe I'm shameful by saying I don't see them as heroes. I see them as innocent victims. People that were sent to the other side of the big planet, right? The other side of the world to fight a war that really had nothing to do with them.
Sorry, can I get something out of you?
Sure.
Okay, sorry. Keep going.
Now, when I was at Gallipoli, I looked out at the water and I saw how beautiful the place was. It's beautiful. Now, I don't know how much they tell you in Australian history. I'm 45. When I was at school, I was never told how many Turkish men were killed. 5 times the amount of Australian and New Zealanders were Turkish men that were killed. In their own homes, they were not actually a part of the big war, but 5,000 to 1,000 Turkish men died. When you go to that island of Gallipoli, and go sometime in your life, you have quite a few hours to go across the whole part and you look at all the plaques. There are plaques there from Australian men and women that have said things like, our son will never come home. Now, anyone who has a son here, I want you to think about if that was your son in another part of the world fighting for no reason that's real, right? I'm sorry, but the Turks weren't going to come and attack us. Now, what's your name, Mark? Made a really good point. If the leaders have a problem, if they want more oil, they want more money, they want more land, let them fight it out. Our sons and daughters should not go to another place and kill someone else's son and daughter. Who's a parent here? I'm a parent. I don't ever want my child to hold a gun and kill another person's son or daughter. Why are they doing it? Because the leaders at the top want more power, more ammunition, more guns, more oil, more something. Greedy pricks. Your sons are dying for greedy pricks. Let them fight their wars. Now, you go to Gallipoli and have a look at the plaques that say, my son will never return home. And you think about your child never returning home. And then next to it, another plaque will say, our son died for liberty. Really? An Australian went all the way to Turkey to free Australia, did they? Bullshit. And if you want to stay ignorant about that, you know what? Fantastic. Go home, drink more alcohol, numb the brain out. That's fine. But there's innocent men going and fighting wars for this, right? None of you understand. They're not heroes, they're victims. They're victims, and we are stupid for sending them over.
Stupid.
They are heroes in the sense that they love their families. They love their families. They want to protect their families. But the thing is, the more of them that don't do this, the more of the world that will stand up to these assholes at the top, the more freedom we will actually have. Now, you can all say, oh, hippie love, what a load of bullshit. I have arguments with people, but you know what? I tell them what I think and then I go home and I switch on my TV and I have a glass of wine. I don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to go and kill a person I have an argument with, right? I'm not going to go and take their car or their home off them. If I don't like someone, I go home and I hang out with my family. So why can't the leaders at the top just leave these other countries alone, right? And Mark made a good point. If there's someone like Hitler out there that really needs to be taken care of, take care of them, not the rest of their society. Because you know what? They're sitting safe while all the men and innocent women and women are dying. So as far as I'm concerned, on Anzac Day, rather than thinking hero, 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 feel the sadness of the families that lost those men. Thank you. And anyone who has a son or daughter here, remember that.
Very good. Brilliant.
Now, how do they get good people to do bad things? Very easily. give them an enemy and make them believe that that enemy will kill them if we don't kill them first. And how do they do that? They invent things like religion, politics, and such like. And that way they get thousands of people to pick up a gun and go millions of miles, thousands of miles to kill other people they don't even know. What for? Stupid, because they are ignorant themselves. The idea is to get educated and know why we exist, why we do what we're doing. And I wrote this book, Civilization Hijacked, to show just why we do this, why good people do bad things, and how they are inveigled into doing these things. So if you want to know why, be educated. Knowledge is bliss, not ignorance.
Show us the book again, please.
Knowledge will give you contentment.
Hold the book up for everybody, then we have a look.
Let's have a look at your book, Albert.
Yeah,
Show us your book again, please.
okay.
Hold your book up.
Civilization Hijacked. It's a secular book. It tells you how God divides us and makes us enemies of each other. They build walls to keep us separated and fighting one another. It's the gods that we believe in that are the evil of the world, not the people that are fighting. We are all victims that fight each other. We're victims of our experience and our environment. Even the radical Islamists, what could they do other than what they're doing? If you were born in Mecca, you would be a Muslim. And you would have no say in it. That's how you would be born and how you're brought up, your experience. And it's our experience and our environment that makes us what we are. And this book tells you exactly how it came about, with the invention of God by Abraham, or if Abraham didn't exist, as I don't think he did, that the leaders of the 12 tribes of Israel invented a God that gives them all the power of the world.
Thank you very much, sir. Well
Thank
done.
you, Albert. Excellent. That's good.
Welcome this, please.
Yeah,
Doug.
I'm Douglas McCartney, middle name Bruno. If you don't know who Bruno was, whoa! Bruno was one of the first men to suggest that the Earth orbited the Sun and not the other way around.
That's Giordano Bruno.
Giordano Bruno. Now, for his troubles, the Catholic Church burned him at the stake. So, you know, not too happy an ending. Other people suggested it too. The one everybody knows, of course, is Galileo. He fared a little bit better. He wasn't burned at the stake. He was confined to barracks for the rest of his life. But about 10 or 15 years ago...
Mr. Speaker, I have a question about that.
Yeah, carry on.
If these guys were so smart,
Yeah.
why were they dumb enough to let themselves be found out and burned at the stake?
Well, because they were quite bold and brave when they were out there speaking about it.
Standing up for their rights.
Standing probably on their
Yeah.
proverbial box.
Yeah. I'm wobbling on this. I'm going to have a shot at this step ladder instead.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Keep
I
going.
just mentioned that because a lot of people say, how the hell did you get a name like
That's a
Bruno?
better background too.
I beg your pardon?
It's a better background, actor background.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. What I want to talk about today, we've got onto the subject of war. I want to talk about the next war, which won't last for very long. Could all be over in 24 hours.
You've got 6 minutes.
I've got 6 minutes to talk about nuclear war, global nuclear obliteration. There was a woman who back in about 1978 wrote a book called Nuclear Madness. Her name is Dr. Helen Caldecott. She in turn, or prior to that, she read a book by a bloke called Neville Shute. It was called On the Beach. And this book was about the end of life on planet Earth. A few survivors down in Melbourne who were just they ended their lives taking strychnine or some poison because they were the last people, and rather than die of radiation, they took their own lives. Everybody I speak to today remembers the Cuban Missile Crisis. Oh yes, we all know about that. You know, we got over that. John F. Kennedy saved us. What everybody, I've never met anybody, but except for perhaps Albert here, who is aware of how many times we've come close to nuclear obliteration since the Cuban Missile Crisis. I've got a list here, which I'm not going to go through the whole lot, but I'll just read, first of all, I'll just read you a quote by Dr. Helen Caldecott. This will only take a few seconds. Is it not remarkable how we manage to live our lives in apparent normality while at every moment human civilization and all forms of life on our planet are threatened with annihilation? We seem to accept this situation calmly, as if it was expected. Clearly, nuclear warfare presents us with the spectre of a disaster so terrible that most of us would prefer not to think about it. And that's what we do. We prefer not to think about it, so we don't think about it. We watch, well, I don't know, something on television. What's all the go these days? Anything rather
Vampire
than think.
Diaries.
Yes, anything rather than think about what's coming.
I'd rather think about something on television than what's coming.
Well, I think it's about time you changed. I think it's about time everybody became aware of what's just around the corner. Because if only people started to realise how many times we've come close to nuclear obliteration, they wouldn't be so casual about the whole thing.
Yeah, but
I want you. Sorry, I want this speaker to give some examples of that. I want you to give at least 2 examples of situations where we after Cuban Missile Crisis, after Bay of Pigs, where we've come close to nuclear war.
Let me start a little bit earlier than that. Let me talk about
Cuba.
All right, I want you
Cuba was one.
I want you to back up what you say with evidence. It's a strange request. I'm aware of that.
It's not a strange request. It's a perfectly good request.
Do it, please.
Right. How about the Yom Kippur War between Egypt and Israel? The USA thought that Russia, or the Soviet Union as it was then, was preparing for nuclear war. So while President Nixon slept, they put the whole of their nuclear missile program on red alert. Now, that's one example. You told me to mention 2. What about Berlin? The Berlin crisis. The Soviets moved their tanks right up to what was known as Checkpoint Charlie. The Americans moved their tanks up to Checkpoint Charlie. There was about 100 meters between an army of Russian tanks and an army of American tanks. It only needed one soldier, one tank commander with a twitchy finger to start World War III. As it happened, the Russian tanks withdrew. And that was the end of that. You want more examples? How many would you like?
I don't think either of them were anywhere close to a nuclear war.
But hold on, isn't like
What about the Ukraine today?
Like, every day, like what's to stop some idiot from just going,
exactly.
See you later in Australia?
We've got this lunatic in North Korea.
Yeah.
He would think nothing of, oh look, I'm in a bad mood today. Let's obliterate South Korea. Let's obliterate Japan.
I have a question, Mr. Speaker.
Carry on.
You want us all to be aware of in what danger we are.
Yes.
I'm asking, what if I had spent the last 20 years of my life every day worried about obliteration, I would have had a far inferior life to the one I've had.
Of course, and no one's expecting you to spend all your... What I'm trying to do is to get people to be aware that Cuban Missile Crisis was just one isolated incident.
I think we're aware that the nuclear attacks are possible. We just don't want to become tense and anxious about it.
Well, it's about time you did become tense and anxious about it. It doesn't have to ruin your life. I'm not a tense and anxious person. I lead a wonderful life. But at the same time, I'm aware of what is likely to happen at any moment.
And how does that help? How does that help?
Because what I'm trying to do here, the last few years...
Physical happiness.
Very good.
Have you ever seen 2 more ferocious looking dogs?
You're talking to me?
Yeah. I was like, when I noticed it. Wait.
Yeah. I know, that's why I went.
Oh look, beautiful. I read for that.